All right, we are back. We're talking Gridiron 360 AFC South style. I got my buddy Bill. What up? And I'm Dave.
Dave, what time is it?
It's time to talk about the AFC South.
What time is it?
It's 4:17.
Got 3 minutes? Smoke them if you got them.
All righty then.
Devil's lettuce. Hey, they said it was okay in the NFL, so it's okay by me.
All right, so we're going to take a little bit different approach because there was a lot of inactivity in this particular division since the March 19th deadline, and we'll get into those. But let's kind of talk about where these teams were at and kind of what they're doing. So I'll start off with Tennessee. Tennessee, I think, had one of the strongest second halves of the season. We were very high and are still very high on this Tennessee team. What I like what they did is they went out and re-upped Tannehill, didn't get involved in some of the circus that was potentially out there in the quarterback market. So they shored up a lot of pieces so far with that. So, we've talked a little bit about what they've done already. Kind of talking about Jacksonville, which will slow it down. Jacksonville's in a rebuild mode. They've traded away some talent over the last couple of years. Interestingly, one thing we'll spotlight on is kind of what their quarterback situation looks like. Obviously, with the move on Foles, may kind of telegraph not only where they see going short term, but also long term. You got a team like Houston. A lot of Houston's moves have been widely panned. Certainly, kind of got the whole transition going with the move with DeAndre Hopkins. And so it's a team that kind of has been very, very strange in their approaches, to say the least. And then you got the Indianapolis Colts. Again, a team that had a lot of good pieces in place. It's a solid offensive line, had a quarterback that we weren't totally sure about, widely talked about in the quarterback area of going after Phillip Rivers. That deal came to fruition on a one-year deal. So there wasn't as much either need to move or desire to move in free agency. That's probably going to keep them on the sidelines a little bit over the rest of free agency as they look to either augment their lineup, probably more through the draft, or whether they're looking to rebuild entirely. So it's kind of leaving that at the forefront. It's just kind of understanding where the teams are at and what they're doing. So what we'll do is we'll go through the few transactions we saw, and then kind of as we've ended up with the last few podcasts on the divisions, is talk about where these teams sit after the moves that have been made so far. So why don't we go ahead? Our first move, there was nothing on 319 in this division that we saw. We had a move on 320 with the Houston Texans.
Yes, they bring back offensive tackle. He's more of a swing tackle. They re-signed Roderick Johnson to a one-year, $1.75 million deal. And the important part of this, I guess, is that this deal comes after they had earlier declined to tender him. So that because they put their tender on I can't even remember.
Well, a tender, they can tender anybody.
Yeah, or they tag. I'm thinking tag. They tagged, but they didn't. They didn't agree to do a tender with him, and so I guess he was restricted.
Yeah, he's a Florida State guy, so I know him a little bit. Not a long-term piece. Probably more should be more in that backup tackle role. He did play left and right in college. Probably not suited.
That's why they say swing tackle.
Yeah,
obviously.
Probably not suited to be your left tackle unless it's in a pinch. So,
they've got Tunsil at the left tackle position. They've got Titus Howard at the right tackle position. Zach Fulton is the right guard. Max Sharping is the left guard. Nick Martin is the center. He's pretty good. So that's where they sit with it. So Roderick Johnson, they have him currently as the second string right tackle. But again, swing guy. They lost backup left tackle Brent Cavalli, I think. He went to the Jets. So this guy is going to be able to play, I think, both ways.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry. They brought in Cavalli from the Jets.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I thought Cavalli was a Jet. So they brought him in from the Jets.
Let's just say Houston, I think more so now with the trade of DeAndre Hopkins, and the amount of times that their super talented quarterback, Deshaun Watson, has been planted, needs to really focus on that O-line. They brought over David Johnson, which I may be a little bit of an upgrade of their running back room in the sense, was Carlos Hyde really the guy, but I think most people don't really view that as one long-term, but also...
It's a net loss. It's a net loss. Though they may be
Hopkins versus Johnson is a net loss.
Well, I'm just saying, you may be improving maybe a little bit if we see, I mean, like, look, if we see the David Johnson we saw a few, like, 2-3 years ago, it'll be a little, this thing will look much better.
Well,
do I expect
and also
to
on
see
top of that,
with the injury after injury he's had the past couple seasons, and on top of that, is he going to make it through a full season without getting injured again? We don't know. So that's why we say, look, that's probably a little bit of an upgrade, yes, from a Carlos Hyde or Lamar Miller or whoever you have. They still have Duke Johnson as their third down back that they brought in from Cleveland last year. But it is such a drop-off in the wide receiver section in losing Nuke that the overall net of it is a loss.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's obviously a lot of concern there. This is a team I think that's still got to focus, and it was, it's right in the sense to focus on the O-line. What you can't do is you can't take one of probably the two best young quarterbacks that are in the NFL right now and continue to get the hell beat out of him. And I've watched it, and it's amazing because he can win games on his own, but at some point you got to protect that. You got to keep that guy healthy. So, it is what it is, and that's where we go.
Well, look, Deshaun, we talk a lot throughout the season, especially touching on certain guys and character and, the guy that you want to be the face of the NFL, maybe not the premier, but this is a guy, like when you think of an NFL player, this guy is such a great, that's what we want. Drew Brees, right?
When you think about Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, there's got to be a next, those are older quarterbacks. There's got to be that next line.
Deshaun is a young guy, but he has great character. He's such a good person. I truly believe that. I've watched him since he was playing in high school up, just about 45 minutes to an hour north of us in Gainesville. Not that I went to the games, but I watched the tape, the highlights, because I knew he was coming to my Tigers. Watched every snap he ever played, every single snap, probably a couple, 3 times over with replays and rewatching games ever at Clemson University. Everyone. And watched him develop as not just an athlete, but as an individual, a young man, and growing into an adult. So character, it's all there. Here's what disturbs me. When this trade first happened, he put out, because now we're living in a world where socials, you can find things out quickly and, take it or leave it. Is it true? Is it cryptic? Whatever somebody might be saying, especially in a celebrity athlete role. When it first happened, he wished Nuke all the best. That was his boy, and that was pretty much it. Didn't say much. In the past 2-3 days, apparently, and I have to look up the one that I got a notification on today, but I did look at the one yesterday. He sent out what they've called cryptic tweets about pretty much his displeasure with Coach O'Brien, because O'Brien is also the
acting
de facto GM.
Yep.
So responsible for these moves, not just as a head coach. And you could see that he's upset. I think the one I read yesterday, he put out like a line, some lyrics from, I think it was Drake. I know Drake. I worked, in media and radio sales, so I know the music industry, but I am 44 years old. Am I as avid? No, not. I liked hip-hop back in the day, but I was, Tribe Called Quest, Beastie Boys, Run DMC, Wu-Tang Clan, that was my day and age. So I don't listen to all the lyrics that it popped right in my head, but I think it was one of those things, and it went along the lines of duos being ripped apart and things like that. And so, the media gets hold of it. It's something he's trying to say negative, positive? If there is, I don't know. You're just trying to, but again, that's why they're calling them cryptic tweets. But that's something I will tell you that if it is, and I don't want to say, I'm reluctant to say negative, but if it isn't a positive thing that he's trying to tweet out, that's something I've never seen him do in his entire life career that I've known him.
And remember,
so
these guys have
that says something to me, man. That's there's troubled waters ahead.
Yeah,
if that's the case.
Well, here's the whole thing: is in the quarterback versus coach battle, very seldom does the coach win, especially if the quarterback is competing. I'll tell you, Andy Reid,
especially if it's the future of the team.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid's got one of the longest tenures head coaches in the NFL as an NFL head coach, not just at Kansas City, but just as an NFL head coach. And I'm going to tell you right now, if things go sideways between him and Mahomes, who you think Kansas City's sticking with?
Yeah, right.
It won't happen, but I'm just saying, it's that reality.
It's
and Bill,
great analogy. Great analogy.
Yeah, I
mean, Andy Reid is the guy that, in Philadelphia, Donovan McNabb and, has a lot to do with the success that McNabb had in his career, even though he never got the big one.
Yeah.
Him or Reid in Philly, for that matter. Now he's got his, so good for him. But, at the end of McNabb's career, he was one of the guys, I think, that was, a part of the move to have to pull the plug on him as their quarterback.
Yep.
Okay, but it was later on in the career. This is a little different a scenario, but, it's a great analogy, dude. I mean, what do you think? I mean, at the end of the day, especially the diehard Houston fans that there are, they're in love with some, D-Dub for life. Trust me.
Yeah,
and at the end, and things that have happened under O'Brien's tenure before and, post having Deshaun Watson have left, I think, a lot of them feeling some type of way here and again. So, but they love Deshaun. So if it comes down to it, who do you think is that they're going to call for whose head if it came down to it?
Yeah,
Watson.
And it is, and I agree with you. I know enough about Watson. You know way more than I do, but I know quite a bit about him. Is that he is a class individual, so this is not a malcontent. So, like you said, sometimes even just the not positive is alarming because this is a kid that is extremely positive.
Yep.
He could have easily
exactly said it very easily right there.
Yeah, and he could. I mean, and he's a guy that could have been trashing his offensive line for the last 3 years, and you never heard him do it because it's not him. But it is concerning. And remember, not but like 3-4 weeks left in the season.
2 years.
What?
You said the last 3 years. 2 years.
No, 3-4 games in the season.
Yeah,
what I was saying, last 3-4 games in the season could have won the division. So. You're talking about a team that, has made some questionable moves. And, I mean, we can go down to Laramie Tunsil. That was a very questionable move last year. And, and again, it was more not just because you made a big move on it. It was just what you gave up and what you got. It just really had a lot of people rolling their eyes. So what we'll do is we kind of just hit on Houston for a bit. And it remains to be seen. It's hard to tell what this team's doing. But we had some other moves. We're going to go all the way.
There weren't a lot, but then that was on roughly the 20th. I didn't see much out of the division on the 21st or the 22nd. Around the 23rd, did I see it?
No, it was 24th. We had some moves from Jacksonville.
Yeah, I had a couple things from Jacksonville, actually. I might have only told you one, but there were two. So on the 24th, Jacksonville signs cornerback Rashawn Melvin to a 1-year deal. And they also bring in tight end Tyler Eifert from the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know, man. As a fantasy football player, Eifert is a guy that can be a mystery because yes, he's had an injury, another one of those guys that can't stay on the field, and it seems like the tight ends in this day and age, because they are playing more of the versatile role than just a down blocker, there's a lot of them out there that have injury trouble staying on the field for a full season.
Yeah,
but they bring in Eifert, and again, as a fantasy football fan, saw what he did a few years, I think it was maybe a little his first, but his second year with Cincy, coming out of Notre Dame, touchdown whore, tall target, big target. And you're like, oh, and then he gets hurt, and then he comes back. And you're like, oh, you might want to take a chance. I'm not going to draft tight end early in fantasy football, but that may be a guy I could draft late, and maybe he'll be just a dime for me. Looking at that from the fantasy perspective, guess what? The NFL perspective on him is the same fucking way.
Yeah. It's.
I don't know that this is a good
Here's
sign.
what I'll say. It's an injury prone tight end going to a team that last year in particular saw an injury riddled tight end group.
Yep.
They let go of Swaim. They still have O'Shaughnessy, but he's
Shaq Hennessy.
Yeah, he had some injuries too. I think they got down to like their fourth tight end.
Yeah, they had O'Leary too, didn't they? Wasn't Nick O'Leary on the team? He was drafted by the Jags. I'm pretty sure.
No, he was drafted by Buffalo. He went to Miami. I think he was on Miami last year.
Okay.
Or maybe he got signed by. Who did he get signed by this year? He got signed by Baltimore. No,
he's going Seattle. No, not Seattle. It'll come to me. Go ahead.
He went somewhere else. But anyway, so I guess I look at it and for a team that was they made some big contracts, and you see they got rid of Calais Campbell, they got rid of Jalen Ramsey the year before when they blew those things. They traded away. Yeah, they traded away AJ Bouye. So, this is a team that's kind of been cycling out. Linebacker position, I know they signed, I think it was Schobert, right, is who they signed.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Miles Jack, who's actually been pretty decent for them.
Mm-hmm.
They tagged Ngakoue, but they're, whether that...
He's not thrilled to be there.
No, and whether that plays out and they can either re-sign him or trade him, we don't know. There's no real smoke there yet. And offensively, obviously they moved away from Nick Foles. So this is a team that is either going to be I think they're married to to their guy right now, as I say right now in the stash. For
those that don't know, although the artist formerly known as Gardner Minshew, number 2.
I'll always call him the stash. I will. He's earned it. He wanted it.
They got Josh Dobbs as their backup.
They traded for him, mind you, from Pittsburgh.
For all we may be joking. And I don't think that he's the answer. I could be wrong in Minshew. That is, this is a kid that really revamped his position in the draft, his final season at Washington State under the mad scientist. Love me some Mike Leach. Now at Miss State. Or Miss State? Ole Miss? Miss State. He's at Arkansas.
Miss State. Ole Miss is laying the train.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyways, I digress.
Or no, he go to Arkansas. Man, now I'm all screwed up.
I'm getting all screwed up right now.
No, he went to Ole Miss, and Mike Leach went to Miss State. You're right, because it's the line guy that went to Arkansas.
Yep. All right, so but I say that and that's usually, as you see with the quarterback coming, what's his name, Andrew Johnson or whatever his name this year out of Washington State. Leach does that. These guys have tons of yards, and it puts themselves on the map. Yeah. But not a big guy, not like this extreme, not Joe Burrow. But I think he's a good kid, man. And I think I give him credit, man. I mean, like, this is a guy that came in. He didn't look shook. Foles went down. They give him Foles this big contract to bring him in, and immediately goes down, and the Rook stepped in and did an okay job.
Yeah, and then Foles came back and then lost his job again, and so here we are. But now what will be interesting for them will be Jacksonville and what they do at they're at number 9.
Yes.
And so for a team like you're a Giants fan who's talked about the ability to trade back, does Jacksonville with the idea that maybe you've got, and I'm just throwing this out there, and even this could change, but if you got Burrow going 1, you got Tua going 5 to Miami, and potentially then you got the Chargers who have not gone and picked up a free agent quarterback going after maybe a Herbert, then either one, are they in love with Jordan Love, or do they need to trade up and go get one of those other guys? So could they become a trade partner? Again, they've got some opportunity. They obviously get the first rounder from Jacksonville, so they got that to work with. So it's kind of I think we're in a rebuild. They don't have a wide receiver set that's very scary to me. So it's you got a bunch of okay guys out there, but nobody that really frightens me. So. That's kind of the thing is what's this team going to do? Where are they going to focus on? You think, they got Leonard Fournette, who is a good back. Can they start to build around this guy?
I think he had one of his best seasons this year, if not his best, and that was a lot in part due to that he stayed healthy. He stayed healthy.
But he ran tough yards against and with an offense that was you could go play that offense and say, I'm going to make you beat me with the pass. And so that puts more guys in the box. So, again, I think that's where Jacksonville's headed. Let's touch on some of the other teams real quick. How about Tennessee? I think you and I really like Tennessee.
I like Tennessee a lot.
I like what they did already.
Yeah, yep.
I think they did what they needed to do.
Nothing in the past week that we saw that came up free agency wise, at least nothing shocking. I mean, obviously they had to, let go of Jarrell Casey, real good player. But outside of that, I think everything they've done, which was early on when free agency opened, and even prior with making sure they solidified their quarterback with Tannehill, moving on from Mariota. So there's not a question of, if Tannehill, he's not looking over his shoulder, so to speak, and I don't think he is anyways. I don't think he would have been anyways. He certainly didn't look like it at the end of the year that he was even the least bit worried about Mariota. But I think everything they've done thus far has been solid. I don't think they've had a lot that they've needed to do. Where are they at? Do you have it in terms of salary cap to date?
I can get that for you.
Yeah, I mean, because, look, right now I think it's their division. I mean, I don't know if the Colts are quite there yet. We'll see if this Phillip Rivers moves helps them, but I don't know how it really does. It might just be a stopgap scenario till next year's quarterback class. Jacksonville, I don't think is going to. They may if they're going up, it's only a little bit.
Yeah, Titans. By the way,
Houston is obviously going backwards. So, and Tennessee's coming on strong, but from the end of the season.
Were you asking about Tennessee's cap space?
Yes,
right.
Tennessee's cap
Tennessee's
space.
I believe that's number 10. They got about $24.5 million, so there's still room.
They
to
have
work.
room.
So again, this is I will say this: Tennessee was playing some of the best ball in the second half of the season of any teams out there, and you can see by what they did in the playoffs. Going on the road, getting all the way to the conference title game, knocking off the Super Bowl champs, and then knocking off the team with the best record in the NFL, one after the other. Ran into a team that they maybe weren't totally well matched against, and played a tough game against Kansas City. And Kansas City got in, but I think Tennessee is definitely on the rise. I said it in the previous cast, I love that Tennessee went back and just went after Tannehill right off the bat, got out of the mess that could have happened with the quarterback thing. Some of the talk about Brady wanting to go play with Vrabel, and they just went after their guy. I think it was the right move. Certainly I hope it pans out for him. And, again, I look at a guy like Derrick Henry. I love that guy. Talk about a guy I never expected to really be able to get started again in the NFL just because of the beatings those Bama running backs take. And him in particular, I don't know if anybody got run in Bama the last 10 years at Bama like he did.
Yeah.
And he was just the beast. And man, he's doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, as I look at Tennessee's roster, there's not many holes. I mean, they could D-tackle is a big area because they run a 3-4. Or do they? Yeah.
No, I think they run a 4-3. Don't they?
No. No. I mean, it's kind of an odd look. It looks like it's more of like a 2-5, man. No, it's a 3-4, but you got a D tackle, a nose tackle, and a DN, a left DN, and then you've got 4 linebackers. Different, but they've got Jeffrey Simmons, who they tagged at a DN position. D tackle, they need some stuff, and they're like 29, I think, in the draft. There's some D tackles out there. It's not that deep. They might try to go there because it's not that deep in the first round. But I'm looking at their depth chart, and, you could put some linebackers on there. Obviously, maybe, they picked up a wide receiver. I don't see them going early on a wide receiver, but they could get a wide receiver, again, later on in the draft. Corey Davis hasn't really lived up to, I think, the hype. But we like what we saw at A.J. Brown. I think they're fine at tight end. Running back is good. You might be able to losing Dion Lewis. Maybe you bring a young body in late in the draft. Not a lot of needs. Their offensive line is solid as all get out. Not a lot. So I see maybe their D line is somewhere they look to build. At 29 or something like that. depending on how this thing falls, because I don't see a lot of the D tackles outside of Derek Brown and Kinlaw, Auburn and South Carolina, respectively, really getting first-round pub, but maybe a Raekwon Davis from Alabama. You also have Marlon Davidson, the other D tackle from Auburn. They could pick one of those guys up late first. So
Yep. Do we hit enough on Indy, or should we hit that real quick?
Hit Indy.
All right, we'll just Indianapolis. There is a potential for the upgraded quarterback. My big concern when I actually watched Phillip Rivers play last year, this is a guy that has a short throwing motion, very compact throwing motion, almost a little bit like Marino in that it's not a full windup.
Mr. Sada.
That allows him to get the ball out quickly, but what I saw was some lack in arm strength. It sounds like they're looking to keep Brissett, which I think is a good idea. You got to remember, Rivers put up tons of numbers and did a lot of things in San Diego, and they did nothing really to help him for a lot of years. The question is, what's left in that arm? To me, I think they're a dangerous team. I like some of the weapons. I'd like to see him get a little.
I like their coach.
I like their coach a lot. They got O-line. I'd like to see him look at wide receiver and running back as potential moves that they could make in probably more so in the draft. And then defensively they're very solid. They made a big move for Buckner. It was Buckner. Yeah, Buckner. And they got Darius Leonard, who has been a phenomenal linebacker for them. I like what they got. I think they're competing right now. To me, it does look like it's going to be Tennessee and Indianapolis competing next year. I just don't know that I feel enough about Houston. I don't know how much Deshaun Watson can really carry this team.
He's going to have to be able to stay upright and healthy the whole year, and he's going to have to do it all himself.
Yeah. So that wraps us up for the AFC South. Again, not a lot of transactions, so we talked a lot about what they look like right now and where their arrow is pointing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we will be back to you. Going to talk about the AFC North. Thank you for listening, and check us out on
The Gridiron!